Isn't belief in God just a crutch for weak people? That idea that faith is a crutch implies that strength comes from relying on yourself. That means that you are the strongest individual in the world and that you don't depend on anything, and that strength comes from yourself. But everyone leans on something, whether that's money, relationships, achievements, sex, drugs, anything. You lean on something, whether you believe it or not. And the question is your crutch strong enough to hold you up? That's what the real question is. I am answering questions to grow in my own theological, not arguments, but to be able to have tough conversations with people that have real, honest questions of like, hey, isn't it just a crutch for weak people? Questions about God, questions about theology, questions about things that are hard topics to talk about. So today, this question is, isn't belief in God just a crutch for weak people? It's something that I'm actually really excited to talk about. I'm doing this more so for me to get some reps in preaching and speaking, but also in studying and answering these questions. But I want to dive in here. I think that the root issue of this statement and this question isn't just that God is a crutch. I think going deeper than this, it gets to the point, I think at the root of this is I don't want anyone telling me what to do. I think at the root of this statement and this question saying, oh, it's just a crutch for people, is because we want to be in control. I think we desire control. We don't want to believe in a God that says you're not in control. We don't want to believe in a God that says you're not enough alone, that you're not enough without me. We don't want to believe in a God that says you need to surrender, because that feels offensive. We're like, why would I need to do that? I'm strong enough on my own. I'm independent. I'm smart enough. Blah blah blah. Like, we don't want to believe that God didn't create us to be independent. We want to be independent, so we try to replace surrender with self-help. Instead of praying things, we like manifest things. Like, oh, I'm manifesting my dream job. I'm manifesting my dream relationship, instead of just praying and surrendering. And then we also try to take control over things instead of just trusting God, instead of releasing and trusting God. So all of these things, I think it reveals the root is that we don't want God because we want to be in control. That's prideful. That's idolatry. That's me saying I'm better than God. That's me saying, oh, I could do God's job better than he even could, which to me, I think that's just crazy personally. And the control that we think we have is actually just an illusion, because you don't actually have control over any of that. So to lean on God isn't weakness. It's actually just wisdom. Because what happens when the things that you are in control of, right? What happens when the things that you're in control of are no longer in your control? You think you're in control because you have a job, but what happens when you lose your job? That in itself shows that you weren't even in control of your job to begin with. That someone else was in control of that, not you. So now you lost your job. What happens when that relationship ends? And it wasn't your doing. It was someone else decided to end the relationship. Again, another point. You might think that you're in control in that relationship, but it shows that was out of your control. Or if you lose your money, maybe you invested in something, or maybe you got you got jacked. They take your money. You don't have anything. You got, like, all of a sudden your money is gone. The thing that gave you control is now gone. And that reveals two things: that what you trusted in, what your crutch wasn't enough to hold you up. But then two, that you're not in control. If you think you can control anything, that you can actually control anything, it's a rude wake-up call. And I hate to be the one to tell you this, but only thing you can control is your response to anything. The only thing you can control is your reaction. It's how you choose to respond in a moment, because there is absolutely nothing that we can control on this earth, in our lives. And it sucks to admit that. I hate admitting that. I love thinking that I'm in control. That's one of my biggest problems. One of the biggest things that I have to surrender daily to God. And I'm like, God, help me with this. Help me to trust you. Help me to lean into you. Help me to let go of what I want, and help me to trust you with the outcome. Help me to trust you with the process. Help me to trust you through it all. Because I want to be in control, so I will do everything that I can to make something happen. And then sometimes I end up doing things that aren't what God had in mind, or I'll try to force my plan and my will on God's plan, and it just doesn't work that way. So your crutch, whether that was money, a relationship, anything, whatever that was, it wasn't strong enough to hold you up. And then the question is, why would you think that believing in something makes you weak? Because if that's what you believe, if you're saying, hey, you believe in God, so that makes you weak. If you believe it's saying that by your own statement, if that's you, if you've ever said that or even thought that, in your statement, you're also incriminating yourself, calling yourself weak. Because you're saying if you believe in something, then that makes you weak. So isn't belief in money just a crutch for people that can't trust God? Or what about believing in sex or relationship as the thing that satisfies? Isn't that just a crutch for people that can't deal with their own pain, their own need to feel loved? Isn't that just a crutch holding you up, helping you feel satisfied and loved? What about drugs? Isn't that just a crutch for people to numb their pain? You're believing in something, whether you want to admit it or not. You believe in something, and that's what you lean on. So why not lean on God? Why not be dependent on God instead of something else that can't hold you up? The problem with this is that the gospel is offensive, so even saying this is offensive. Even communicating this probably offends people. It's hard to say, it's hard to deliver, because we don't want to admit that we're weak. We don't want to admit that we are in need. We don't want to admit that outside of myself, I can't control anything. It's hard. It requires humility, and it's pride to think, oh, I can do it. I can control it. I'll figure it out. I got this. Oh, my job, my relationship, whatever. Like, I'll figure it out. It's pride to think that you can do it on your own, and that in independence you are strong. When God created you, He created you for dependence. He created you to be dependent on Him. So your independence isn't powerful. It's actually just disconnection. It's disconnecting from the thing that you were designed to belong to, from the person you were designed to belong to. I know I'm going. I know I'm kind of rambling on. But even if you think about like your parents, to think that to be dependent on something makes you weak, why are you still on your mom's insurance? Why is she still paying for your phone bill? When you were growing up, no one called you weak for depending on your parents to feed you, to buy you clothes, to do all these things. No one called you weak. That was human. That was normal. We have to depend on things outside of us, outside of ourselves. We have to depend on so many things and so many people. So depending on something doesn't make you weak. It actually shows strength. It shows humility to be honest and acknowledge, like, hey, you know what? I can't do this on my own. And that's what the gospel is. There's only one thing that we can give to the gospel, and that's our pride. Or there's only one thing that we have to give up to receive God, and that's our pride. It's our sin. We've sinned, and on the cross, He defeated sin. He defeated the power of sin, but it's our pride that keeps us from coming back to Him. It's our pride that says, oh, either I'm good enough on my own, or God, I'm not good enough yet, and I'm going to work hard to be better for you. Because both of those things are saying, okay, what God did on the cross isn't enough. It's not enough because you think you're better than Him, if that's the one side of pride. And then the other side of pride is, it's not enough, so I have to do more to make sure that it's enough. Both of those things are pride. So in this question, this statement of saying, oh, the gospel, leaning on Jesus is for weak people, is someone that is maybe caught up in pride and doesn't realize. I think maybe this question could come from a genuine place, but sometimes I feel like this question more so comes from someone who is prideful and trying to talk bad and talk down on people that have a relationship with Jesus and are showing dependence on Him. It's hard to admit that you're weak. That's why the gospel is offensive. We don't want to admit that we're weak. We don't want to admit that we need help. We don't want to say, God, help me in this. Help me trust you. So I could argue this point for days, honestly, but unless you can answer these questions, we're not going to get anywhere. Unless you're sitting and watching this video with actual heart to be honest and confront the things deep inside of you, you're going to think that I'm dumb. You're going to think that this whole conversation, that what I'm saying is just foolish. And that's okay. The Bible says that. The Bible says that the message of the cross is foolish to those who don't believe. And I'm okay with that if you think that I'm dumb. If you think that I'm crazy for even communicating this. I'm just doing this because I want to have an answer. And my answer is that depending on something, my answer to isn't belief in God just a crutch for weak people? I'll say, yeah, sure. It is a crutch. But what are you leaning on? What's your crutch? Being dependent on something isn't bad. Being dependent on God isn't bad. It's actually the best thing. It shows humility. But these questions, you have to answer these questions. What are you leaning on? Is it money? Is it a relationship? Is it a job? What are you trusting? What is your crutch? What do you lean on that if it was taken away, you would crumble? You have to assess. You have to ask yourselves, go deep in your heart and be like, okay, what am I leaning on that if it's taken away from me or if I have to give it up is going to cause me to crumble? And then the second question is, are you able to be honest enough and admit that you need help? You have to be honest enough. That's the first step. In accepting Jesus, the first step in getting free is to admit that you need help. I think they say like the first stage of grief is denial. And I think like the first step of like Alcoholics Anonymous is being able to accept where you're at. You have to be able to admit where you're at, that you need help, that you are desperate for God, that you are dependent on Him, and be okay with being weak. You have to be okay with needing a crutch. You have to be okay with not being enough on your own because God is enough. He's enough for you. He's enough for me. But if you can't admit those things, if you aren't honest enough to admit that you need help, then this message isn't for you, and I can't help you. Jesus didn't come for the self-sufficient. He came for those who knew that they were weak. He says, I didn't come for the healthy. He says the healthy people don't need doctors. The ones who are sick do. Jesus came for the people that were sick, for the people that were willing and honest enough to admit that they need help. So is it a crutch? Yes. Do I need this crutch? Absolutely. Will I lean on it till the day that I die? 1,000% yes. But my question in return is, what are you leaning on? And are you sure that that thing is going to be able to hold you through every season of life and through every trial?